This famous female MC was married, but she was dating a guy 10 years younger than her. When the two were having fun in bed, a phone call suddenly came in, ruining the romantic atmosphere. The young man saw this and immediately grabbed her phone and switched it to airplane mode. To make the female MC trust him more, the young man even deleted the video he had just recorded. But after that moment, the young man revealed his true nature. He deliberately placed the phone at an angle that clearly captured the scene of them fooling around in bed. Not only that, the young man also the video online. Since then, the famous female MC suddenly became the target of criticism and condemnation from all over Korea. Because of the great pressure from public opinion, Seo-jin was forced to quit her job. She had no choice but to go to Sung-han. He was a lawyer specializing in emotional litigation and had never lost a case. Sung-han saw that her situation was very bad, so he knew that this was not an easy case to solve. Seo-jin knew that very well, but Seo-jin was disappointed that the lawyer only looked at the surface of the matter. Seo-jin wondered if he didn't want to hear the story and the wishes of his client. She blamed Sung-han for being just like any other lawyer. When Seo-jin was about to stand up and leave the office, Sung-han suddenly stopped her. He sincerely asked her to clarify what she really wanted. Unexpectedly, Seo-jin chose to give up all her assets. She only made one request, which was the custody of her son. Seo-jin's answer made Sung-han surprised and confused. In such a disadvantageous situation, Seo-jin still showed maternal love, which confused him. Sung-han wondered if there was a deeper reason behind that decision, but with Seo-jin's determination, he gradually believed in her sincerity. However, the current situation made Seo-jin's chances of gaining custody very slim. Sung-han had to give some advice and guide Seo-jin to collect the necessary evidence. Only when they had enough evidence could they consider the next step in this legal battle. That night, Seo-jin returned home and brought fruit for her son. Despite her thoughtfulness, she still received only indifference and cold criticism from her son. As soon as she stepped out of the room, Seo-jin had to face her perverted and rude husband. As usual, Hee-sub cursed her harshly. This time, Hee-sub even hit her. Seo-jin tried to hold back. She didn't want to put more pressure or hurt on her son. Seo-jin silently endured but refused to give in. Even if she died, she would let everyone know her husband's true face. It turned out that Hee-sub was a terrible husband. Every morning and night, he took pictures of his wife's bra, just to determine what style she wore outside. If he sees that the style is too flashy, he'll stick a note on it to criticize. For the past 7 years, she had lived in a 130 square meter house filled with insulting notes. What was worse, Hee-sub had installed 6 cameras throughout the house to monitor Seo-jin's every move. Her marriage had become a hell with no way out. Seo-jin knew that no one would trust her anymore, but she still vowed to fight to the end, even if she lost everything. She wanted to take her son away from this sick husband. The next day, she told lawyer Sung-han about all of her husband's disgusting behavior. He clearly realized that this was not a simple case of leaking information, but that there was a sophisticated arrangement behind it. From her chance meeting with the young man, to the scene where she was secretly filmed, everything seemed to have been planned. Sung-han began to grasp some important clues before the mediation day. At the mediation session, he presented to the judge about Hee-sub's unusual habit of following. Over the years, he had made Seo-jin lose all her friends. She lived in fear and was completely controlled. Even when meeting colleagues, Seo-jin had to take pictures to prove that she was not having an affair. Although Seo-jin had committed an unforgivable crime, it had nothing to do with child custody. In terms of the child's development environment, Hee-sub's sick behavior was a dangerous thing. Sung-han asked the judge to thoroughly investigate the recording devices and the video storage behavior. At the end of the mediation session, Sung-han asked to meet their son, Hyun-woo. At the same time, he asked his secretary to pretend to be a fan of Seo-jin and secretly report it to the police for investigation. That was the first step in the counterattack plan of a lawyer who had never lost in court. At the same time, Hyun-woo was asked to take a psychological test for a lawsuit. The boy obediently took the test and frankly expressed his feelings that he did not like his mother. When the test ended, Hee-sub coldly asked what the question was, as if to confirm something. Hyun-woo nodded, as if he had been told the answer in advance. At this time, Sung-han had just finished handling the video report and went to see the boy. He saw a child who was more sensible than his age but full of anxiety and reserve. Just mentioning his mother made Hyun-woo tremble and express his dissatisfaction that was hard to put into words. Hyun-woo said that he wished he could forget some of the memories in his head. Hyun-woo did not want to remember what he had seen. Hearing this, Sung-han felt mixed emotions in his heart. Hyun-woo's short sentence seemed to reveal something that had been hidden for a long time. And at that moment, Sung-han began to have a bold hypothesis about the truth behind it. That night, Hyun-woo suddenly had a panic attack and lost control. He grabbed his mother's phone. When Seo-jin was about to call an ambulance, Hyun-woo threw her phone out. Then he continued to pick up the phone and smashed it. Hyun-woo's whole body trembled in a state of agitation. Seo-jin looked at her son like that and blamed herself for hurting him. Seo-jin cried while calling Sung-han, and and announced the termination of the lawyer's mandate. Sung-han picked up the phone and worriedly asked Seo-jin what happened. Seo-jin recounted the whole incident. She said that Hyun-woo suddenly went crazy. Hyun-woo grabbed her phone and smashed it. Seo-jin didn't want to continue the lawsuit anymore. She just hoped that her son would soon calm down. Sung-han was silent for a moment. Then he told her to go out and find a 24-hour restaurant. The lawyer told her to eat a good meal, save her strength, and not to despair. He was sure they would win the case, because the evidence and the truth were on their side. Sung-han's voice firmly said that we would definitely win, so he told Seo-jin to enjoy her meal. On the morning of the trial, Hyun-woo took the initiative to meet Sung-han to talk privately. Sung-han's gentle, rational, and warm way of speaking made the boy open up. The trauma of the past had been deeply imprinted in the boy's young soul. A broken family was inevitable, but who would raise the boy? The child's opinion now became the most important basis for the court's decision. To understand Hyun-woo's mind, Sung-han posed a question. If you could only choose to live with one person, who would you choose? The boy quickly answered, Mom. Hyun-woo choked up and said that he once thought his mother might die, because many times he saw his mother standing barefoot on the balcony when no one was paying attention. He realized his mother's pain, but at that time he was too young. Hyun-woo saw things he shouldn't have seen, and that was the worst memory of his life. Hyun-woo understood that if he continued to live with his cruel father, his future would be ruined. Therefore, Hyun-woo decided to present the diary as evidence to help his mother. In court, Sung-han read the boy's diary aloud, making everyone speechless. His mother was often away from home. He was often alone with his father and very unhappy. Hyun-woo felt pitiful for only being able to be with the father who made him suffer. The opposing lawyer immediately objected. They said that children's emotions were unstable. The opposing lawyer wanted to reject the value of the testimony. They said that Hyun-woo's worries and insecurities could not be used as evidence. Sung-han turned to directly question Hee-sub at the trial stand in front of the judge. He asked Hee-sub directly if he had shown his son the video of his mother. He brazenly admitted it and said that his son needed to know what kind of person his mother was. Hee-sub also affirmed that this was the reason why Hyun-woo could not live with his mother. Seo-jin was stunned. She could not believe her ears when she heard those cruel words. Seo-jin walked towards Hee-sub. She trembled and slapped him twice in the middle of the court. Seo-jin completely collapsed. Even though Sung-han won the case and gave her custody of her son, but the truth was still too cruel. Seo-jin did not know how to spend the rest of her life to make it up to her son. That night, when she returned home, Seo-jin tried to fulfill her role as a mother. Hyun-woo recognized his mother's efforts, so he gladly embraced everything she expressed. The more Seo-jin looked at her obedient son, the more her heart ached with guilt. Unable to hold back any longer, Seo-jin quietly knelt on the floor and burst into tears. Seo-jin apologized to her own son. She hoped he would forgive her. Hyun-woo understood his mother's feelings better than anyone else, so he gently forgave her. Hyun-woo accepted his mother with all the maturity beyond his years and sincere love. As for Sung-han, although he had won the lawsuit, he was still troubled by the question for many days. Why did Seo-jin patiently maintain an unhappy marriage for 7 years? When Seo-jin went to the law office to thank Sung-han, Sung-han took the opportunity to ask her directly what he was wondering. Seo-jin slowly told him that the reason started with the sentence, "I love you." At that time, she believed it was love, and Seo-jin also carried a debt of gratitude in her heart. Her brother was a close friend of her ex-husband and started a company together with him. Because of his gambling addiction, her brother embezzled the company's money, causing both of them to go bankrupt. In desperation, Hee-sub sold a house to save the situation. Seo-jin felt that she owed him a favor, so she agreed to marry him. But no matter how much debt she had, that suffocating marriage made Seo-jin suffocate. Just when she was about to ask for a divorce, tragedy struck again, making her afraid to continue. Seo-jin's brother later lost all his money. Her brother died in a car accident due to drunkenness. The shock was so great that Seo-jin was scared and gave up on the idea of divorce that year. However, her life continued to decline and became worse than ever. Although everything was stable now, Seo-jin was still confused about the future. Would that perverted husband really let go so easily? In her private room, Sung-han marked a grape hanging on the wall. Every time he helped a woman successfully divorce, he colored a grape. Now, there was only one grape left on that branch that had not been colored. A woman quietly went to the law office. She wanted a divorce and asked Sung-han about the price. On the surface, she was the owner of the building, but in reality, Aaron was just a puppet living under her mother-in-law's shadow. Every day, in addition to solving problems arising from tenants, she also cleaned each floor herself. Aaron also worked extra to pay off her mother-in-law's mortgage. She was a hard-working and patient woman, but for many years, her mother-in-law still did not recognize her. Such a devoted daughter-in-law was still never enough for her mother-in-law. When she was young, Aaron defied her family's objections to marry her current husband, all because of his handsome appearance and Byung-chol's promise. She thought that her perseverance would bring her happiness. Who would have thought that married life would be a series of days of suffering. Over time, her mother-in-law, Mrs. Ulboon, became more and more cruel. All her words were used to belittle her daughter-in-law and grandchildren. In her eyes, only her son was precious. The rest were blameworthy. Ulboon criticized her son for helping her granddaughter fold clothes. She thought that the women in the family only knew how to enjoy themselves. Although Aran had taken care of the family by herself, she raised her two daughters to be good people. But the daughter-in-law still could not avoid the sarcasm and insults of her husband's family. Not only the daughter-in-law, even the granddaughter was the target of the attack. Ulboon always thought that all her sacrifices were not worth it. She thought that her children and grandchildren did not know how to behave. Even though she did her best, Aran still could not satisfy her mother-in-law. Every time she came home a little late, she was scolded for intentionally starving the whole family to take over the property. Aran had just returned from a tiring day of work. She had not yet had time to shower when she was forced to cook. Aran's life was filled with heavy responsibilities, making her only wish to eat on time without being scolded. Fortunately, her eldest daughter always knew how to share and help her with everything. Her daughter's thoughtfulness was Aran's only spiritual support. Her husband gradually became useless. He did not help at all around the house. Although Aran was often scolded by her mother-in-law, Aran did not care because she thought she deserved it. But when her mother-in-law scolded her daughter, Aran could not bear it. Before going to bed, she told her husband about this, but Byung-chul just changed the subject. He calmly lay down watching TV without caring about anything. At 4 a.m., Aran woke up to get ready for work. Her mother-in-law ordered her to rent out a room upstairs. Ulboon wanted her two nieces to share a room to save money. The remaining room would be rented out. Knowing that resistance was useless, Aran still gently said that it was not appropriate for the two daughters to share a room. The mother-in-law immediately scolded Aran fiercely. She thought that Aran had been treated well, so she should be grateful. At the same time, she blamed her daughter-in-law for spending lavishly, causing the family's economic situation to be difficult. In the end, Aran reluctantly went to work with a heavy heart. She called her husband to tell him what had happened. Aran hoped that he would handle everything. When she returned home that night, Aran witnessed the worst scene. The issue was whether or not they should share a room to make up for the expenses. Then the mother-in-law brought up old mistakes to blame. The youngest daughter loudly said that the family's breakdown was all because of Byung-chul. The one who failed in business was not Aran, but Byung-chul. The older sister advised her younger sister to go to her room to study for peace. But in this situation, who can learn? The arguing grew louder. The mother-in-law kept cursing. Ulboon thought that sending her daughter to school was just a waste of Byung-chul's money. The younger sister argued that the one who earned the money was her mother. Seeing the fierce arguing, the husband was completely useless. He did not intervene. Aran gritted her teeth and advised her mother-in-law to stop talking, but she received even more insults in return. Ulboon cursed because she could not give birth to a son, only two daughters. The youngest daughter angrily approached Byung-chul and asked why he did not say anything, why he did not see how pitiful his mother was. The grandmother could not bear this and directly beat her granddaughter. Aran angrily shouted at her mother-in-law to stop insulting her grandchildren and stop doing such things, but the mother-in-law ignored her. She continued to beat her granddaughter with violence. Unable to bear it, Aran rushed towards her cruel mother-in-law. She fought back with all her might to protect her daughter. The daughter-in-law said that Ulboon could treat her however she wanted, but she couldn't touch her daughter. The cruel mother-in-law deliberately stayed in the hospital to avoid going home. While her cowardly husband stood by, he didn't dare say a word. Could this marriage still be saved? Ulboon blamed her son for not marrying the vice principal's daughter, and she insisted on getting a diagnosis so that the daughter-in-law would be punished and that she wouldn't be able to do evil again in her life. Having to face such a family, Aran couldn't stand her current life anymore. She mustered up all her courage to go to divorce lawyer Sung Han. Because she was so stressed, when she sat down, Aran kept drinking water to calm down. Then she began to talk about the hardships she was carrying in her heart. Aran was old, and her children were still in school. The daughter-in-law didn't know if the decision to divorce was right, but in fact, she couldn't bear it any longer. Whether Aran or her husband asked for a divorce or not, this marriage was coming to an end. However, she did not dare to clarify the reason for this divorce. This time, Aran admitted that she had acted inappropriately towards her cruel mother-in-law. But everything had a reason. It was just that she did not want to reveal everything. Aran only said that even though they were divorced, she still wanted to get back her property. Lawyer Sung Han asked about the division of property. Aran told him about the house they shared. The house was currently in the mother-in-law's name, not her husband's. When lawyer Sung Han said that they were only dividing the couple's property, she explained that her husband had bought the house when his career was still difficult, so they transferred an apartment to his mother-in-law's name to avoid bankruptcy. Only after completing the transfer of that apartment did her mother-in-law and husband inform Aaron. Her opinion was never respected in the family. Lawyer Sunghan was very sympathetic, but this case was very complicated. Aaron understood those hardships well, yet she endured them for over 20 years like a servant. The daughter-in-law felt that she had lost all dignity living in that house. When she saw that her daughter was being treated similarly, she decided not to endure it anymore. This time, for the sake of her daughter, Aaron was determined to divorce. That night, Byung-chul returned home cowardly. He did not take the initiative to talk to Aaron, but hid in his own room. The more Aaron thought about it, the angrier she became, so she went straight to her room. The wife wondered why Byung-chul did nothing to change the situation. Why did he let things get so bad? What had her husband done all this time? Byung-chul admitted that Aaron had suffered a lot, but he also did not know what to do when his mother had worked hard for half her life. Couldn't they be a little more tolerant of her? Aaron said that she had been tolerant of her mother-in-law for more than 20 years. Whether Aaron or her husband asked for a divorce or not, Aaron is about to go crazy from the pressure. Since meeting Byung-chul, she has never had a single day of peaceful sleep. The husband continued Aaron's words in frustration. Because his business failed, he only drank all day, while she had to face creditors and take care of the children. Life weighed heavily on her shoulders, to the point of suffocation. Aaron said in disappointment that her husband was exactly like his mother. Byung-chul did not want to argue at this time. He just hoped that his wife could sympathize with his mother one more time. Byung-chul wanted Aaron to go to the hospital to apologize properly to her mother-in-law. Life in the Korean village was full of strange things. At this time, Sunghan looked at the bunch of grapes on his wall. Only one was missing. He did not expect this case to be so difficult. Even though he knew that the possibility of losing the case was very high, Sunghan still refused to give up. He was determined to do his best to investigate to find the truth. First, the lawyer needed to ask about personalities of Ul-boon's mother-in-law and Aaron. He assigned this task to his best friend, Jong-sik, who was the most suitable person for the job. Jong-sik then disguised himself as a friend of the female members of that family. Thanks to that, Jong-sik was able to gather a lot of information directly. Everyone knew that Aaron had suffered too much. If it were someone else, they would have left long ago. Aaron had to prepare seaweed rice rolls early in the morning. Aaron had to clean the building all day long until late at night. She was completely treated as a servant in the family. It turned out that Aaron had been silently enduring hardships for a long time. That made Sunghan feel that there was still a chance for her to win the case. He then went to help Aaron clean the house and asked Aaron for evidence. The lawyer asked Aaron whether the payment for the house was definitely made through her husband's bank account. Aaron replied that when she signed the house purchase contract, she was present when he paid the deposit and the final installment. At that time, Aaron was very happy because she had her own house. Sunghan asked her to provide payment details according to the law. However, she only had a transaction statement. That was still not enough evidence. He asked her if she had any notarized documents from her mother-in-law or husband. Aaron felt confused when she heard that, but she remembered something important. Byung-chul had told her about the certificate and notarization. He also kept the recording as evidence. However, Byung-chul gave all the documents to her mother-in-law to keep for peace of mind. Finding those documents became Aaron's top priority. That night, she sneaked into her mother-in-law's house to look for the documents. Unexpectedly that day, Ul-boon refused to let her son take care of her. Byung-chul listened to his mother and returned home, but he didn't want to see his wife. The husband went straight to the 5th floor and accidentally ran into Aaron. The two looked at each other, but they had lost all trust. Their marriage was at risk of breaking down even further. At this time, Sunghan still did not know much about the case. He had to meet a lawyer that Sunghan despised the most in his life. This person prevented him from seeing his nephew and hindered Sunghan's career. In order to completely destroy Sunghan, Yoo-seok also targeted this case. He wanted to destroy Sunghan's vineyard, but did Yoo-seok have the ability to do that? On this side, Aaron was determined to divorce to escape the suffocating house. She wanted to take back what belonged to her after so many years of suffering. If she found this evidence, Aaron would get her property back. While searching, she was caught by her husband. Aaron lied to Byung-chul that she wanted to see if her mother-in-law had any sedatives because she could not sleep. Byung-chul knew she was being treated for depression. Aaron collapsed because her husband knew she was depressed but still treated her coldly. He also seemed helpless because his mother had suffered too much. Byung-chul was his mother's only son and he understood everything. The husband was silent and told Aaron that what she was looking for was not here. It turned out that he already knew his wife's intentions and had hidden the documents. Without the strongest evidence, Sunghan had to find another way. During the conversation, he realized that besides the conflict with his mother-in-law, the relationship between husband and wife and their children was still very good. Aaron said that her mother-in-law was preparing a diagnosis to sue her. The wife was worried and didn't know what to do. Antidepressants weren't working on her anymore. Sunghan heard important information, so he immediately immediately came up with a plan. They would counter-sue her mother-in-law for defamation. The lawyer said that Iran had never hit her mother-in-law. However, the children weren't there at time, so the mother-in-law lost control. Yulbun pushed her daughter-in-law, but because she couldn't push her away, she fell backwards. But the rumor that she hit her mother-in-law quickly spread throughout the neighborhood. Iran felt it was unreasonable, but because she wanted to get her house back, she agreed to follow the plan. Byung-chul's side was also targeted by Yusuk. Yusuk was Sunghan's sworn enemy. Yusuk offered to provide free divorce litigation support to Byung-chul. However, Byung-chul insisted that he had no intention of divorce. Yusuk immediately said that Byung-chul did not know that his wife met with a lawyer every day to prepare to sue him. If Iran hired a lawyer, Byung-chul would have great difficulty dealing with his wife. Yusuk lied again that his sister-in-law lived in their apartment complex. After knowing the truth, Yusuk just wanted to share the burden with Byung-chul. At this time, Iran sat alone in the house. She was worried when she thought about lying to win the lawsuit. Old painful memories came back to her mind. Iran remembered her mother-in-law scolding her for not going to college and not knowing how to raise children. Her mother-in-law blamed her for getting pregnant before marriage and only knowing how to stay at home. Her mother-in-law blamed her for getting pregnant before marriage and for staying at home, doing nothing. Iran was criticized for not knowing how to save money. Yulbun told her that she only needed to use cloth diapers for her child. She blamed her for spending money on high-quality diapers for her child, while her husband worked hard to earn money outside. Her mother-in-law also deliberately caused trouble when she and her husband went on a trip. She sarcastically criticized Iran in many ways and said she was jealous that she was so lucky. Some people work hard to raise their children, while others are blessed. Iran had no status, so she had to cancel her travel plans. She tried to swallow all her anger. Now the daughter-in-law couldn't hold back her tears when she thought back to those images. At that moment, Byung-chul returned home angrily. He asked his wife not to make a big deal out of it. Her husband threatened that if she caused trouble, he wouldn't sit still and take. But Iran didn't listen. She followed Sunghan's instructions. Iran told her husband that she didn't hit her mother-in-law, but that she fell on her own. Her mother-in-law looked down on Iran all her life and didn't care about Iran's reputation. The daughter-in-law decided to sue her mother-in-law. She insisted that she had never hit anyone. Byung-chul was worried that his mother would be hurt, so he went to a law firm. Byung-chul accepted their help, but he was afraid that Iran would be angry, so he lied. In the end, Byung-chul had to go find his wife. He hoped that his wife would stop suing him. Iran took a tough stance. She refused to give in. Byung-chul angrily complained that he felt guilty for the rest of his life because of this kind of woman. At this time, lawyer Sunghan appeared. He comforted Byung-chul. The husband thought of the wife he trusted all his life lying to him. This made him feel like the sky was falling. Sunghan then asked Byung-chul what he thought Iran would do if her mother-in-law insulted her. Even though she was in pain, she still trusted her husband and endured. Now that things had come to this point, he was still lying that the building belonged to his mother. Byung-chul stood up, saying that this was his wife's way of making him suffer. Sunghan didn't know what else to say. He said that Iran was only reacting to her mother-in-law because she was being made difficult by her mother-in-law. Byung-chul didn't listen. He said that the court would judge everything. The trial day came quickly, and both sides submitted full evidence. Iran had the upper hand from the start, but the confrontation with her husband made her uncomfortable. Iran suddenly stopped and admitted to hitting her mother-in-law. However, she was still determined to get back her share of the house. Byung-chul was confused by his wife's sincerity. He presented the strongest evidence, an important recording. After listening to the recording, Iran couldn't hold back her tears. She was surprised that her husband had finally helped her. It turned out that everything was lawyer Sunghan's plan. Believing in Byung-chul's sincerity helped Iran win. At this time, the evil mother-in-law knew everything and was extremely panicked. She scolded her son for helping the woman who ruined him future. Yulbun once wished for her son to marry the vice principal's daughter to reach the top of his career. Hearing his mother, Byung-chul admitted the truth to her. The vice principal's daughter said that she wanted to live with her mother and be filial to her mother, so she didn't want to get married. The vice principal's daughter wanted Byung-chul to buy a country house for her mother and live with her family, so he broke up with her a long time ago because of that. Then Byung-chul started drinking to relieve his sadness every day, and at that time, the employee who cooked hangover soup every morning was Iran. Iran's pregnancy was not a coincidence. He truly loved Iran for a long time. The mother-in-law realized that she was the one who ruined her son's future. Yulbun lost her arrogance. She faced her hard-working daughter-in-law, who was about to divorce, but still poured tea for her. Iran knelt down to apologize, so she softened before her daughter-in-law's sincerity. Yulbun said that thanks to her daughter-in-law, she could eat hot food and retire comfortably. The two of them found relief, and all the emotional knots in their hearts gradually began to unravel. Finally, they became a real family. Although their feelings were healed, the hurt was still there. Therefore, it was imperative to know how to love yourself. In the cafe, two women sat opposite each other, their eyes as tense as a bowstring. No one spoke, but the atmosphere between them was full of hidden challenges. The third person, Jisoo, calmly spoke. She asked the other party for a divorce because everything was clear. Jisoo smugly curled her lips arrogantly, showing that she was not shaken at all. Suddenly, the wife, Ji-yeon, launched a strong attack. Ji-yeon interrupted Jisoo. Ji-yeon replied to the third person that she would rather be a widow than a divorce. Jisoo was shocked and scared and couldn't say a word. She could only silently complain. Jisoo didn't expect that Ji-yeon would threaten her in return. This fight signaled a tense divorce waiting for Sung-han. But before dealing with other people's family matters, Sung-han himself was also entangled in his own troubles. During a break, Sung-han's phone rang. His friend called to remind him about a viral video. Sung-han didn't pay much attention, but the video that followed made the lawyer freeze. On the main screen, he was playing the piano frantically. It seemed that Sung-han's secret had been revealed. Before becoming a lawyer, he was a famous pianist throughout Europe. The tragedy began when Sung-han's sister got into a divorce full of injustice and resentment. Not only did Sung-han's sister lose her family, she was also stripped of custody of her child. What was more painful was that Sung-han's sister could not even keep her own life. On the day she died, her scumbag husband did not even allow her son to come to pay his respects. Sung-han stood in front of her portrait with tears in his eyes. He snatched the bouquet of flowers from his sister's scumbag husband and threw it on the ground. Sung-han blamed the other guy, who should have been there to mourn her, but now he came to pay his respects. The extreme pain made Sung-han cry. Sung-han's heart felt like it was torn in two. From that moment on, he vowed to become a good divorce lawyer to protect justice. Sung-han was smart. It only took him 2 years to become a full-time lawyer. The lawyer had helped many families overcome disputes and keep justice for them. When Seo-jin appeared again, she went to the company to apply for an employee. Although everyone was quite idle, the recruitment of new people made everyone wonder. Sung-han wanted to refuse, but he knew that Seo-jin would only continue to have custody of the child if she had a stable job. Only when she had the status of an employee would she be legally recognized to raise the child. Sung-han also realized that Seo-jin's abilities were completely opposite to her appearance. Having someone like Seo-ji in the company did not cause any major problems. Before they could settle down, lawyer Yoo-seok suddenly visited the office. The rival lawyer pointed to Sung-han's bunch of grapes and said that his intuition was usually very accurate. When the bunch of grapes was ripe, it would probably mean something. Sung-han did not want to drag it out, so he asked Yoo-seok to get straight to the point. Being pushed back, Yoo-seok had to inform him about the monthly meetings with Gi-young. Yoo-seok announces that Sung-han will no longer be able to see his nephew. His paternal family does not want him to continue to have contact with his uncle. Initially, Sung-han was allowed to see his nephew 12 days a year. Now Sung-han is cut off without notice. Yoo-seok declares that this is the decision of Gi-young's family. He only came as a defense attorney for Sung-han's older sister Ju-hwa, not for their family. It was Yoo-seok who suggested that the boy meet Sung-han periodically to stabilize his emotions. Yoo-seok shamelessly demands rewards. Now Yoo-seok only knows how to cling to his stepmother Gi-young's interests, but no one cares. Seeing this, Yoo-seok is angry. He deliberately intervenes in the divorce case that Sung-han is directly handling. In the mediation session, the intern Choi-jun on the opposing side is immature and has limited abilities. Choi-jun does not pose any threat. Sung-han's defense was not aimed at winning, but at reawakening the love that had cooled down. That made Choi-jun change his way of thinking and secretly admire this lawyer. Right after the trial, Choi-jun returned to the company and proactively submitted a resignation letter. More surprisingly, he even went to Sung-han's office with the intention of applying for a job. Sung-han couldn't help but feel frustrated. He wondered when his company was forced to recruit employees. Although he firmly refused, the lawyer still couldn't stop Choi-jun from making an outrageous condition. If he was accepted into the company, Choi-jun would delete the viral video of Sung-han playing the piano. He confessed that he was the one who created the channel and edited and distributed that video. Sung-han was stunned because the person who had embarrassed him for months was standing in front of him. Not stopping there, Choi-jun innocently praised his appearance and demeanor. Sung-han was so angry that he went crazy and attacked Choi-jun. The famous lawyer, who only takes divorce cases unexpectedly, has to defend a mistress. That day, the law office received a special couple. The woman admitted that she was the mistress. She had met Ji-yeon, the legal wife, to talk, but it didn't go anywhere. With no other choice, Ji-suk went to Sung-han for help. She had to get Ji-yeon to divorce at all costs. Her request was bold. Ji-suk asked the lawyer to make her the official wife. Before Sung-han could refuse, she was angry because she was looked down upon just because she was the mistress. The mistress emphasized that this was a matter of life and death because the man was suffering from a serious illness. He had liver cancer and needed a liver transplant immediately if he wanted wanted to prolong his life. Ji-suk volunteered to donate her liver to him, but Korean law only allows relatives or spouses to do that. Therefore, they needed a legal marriage to perform the surgery in time. After listening, Sung-han asked why his current wife could not donate her liver. The answer surprised him. His current wife was completely healthy and had no reason. That woman would rather be a widow than sign the divorce papers. Jung-ho remained silent and didn't say a word. After asking many times, Sung-han also knew that Jung-ho's son abroad also knew about the story, but it was not from his mother. At that moment, Ji-yeon called. As soon as Jung-ho left, Ji-suk told him the whole story. Ji-yeon refused to divorce because she bought a lot of insurance and was just waiting for her husband to make a mistake so she could enjoy life. At this time, Jung-ho received a call demanding 4 million won from Ji-yeon because she had just bought a new car. The wife gave the excuse that she had bought a new car because the old car almost caused a serious accident in Gangbuk. Jung-ho was helpless because he had already advanced his pension. Sung-han was tired of this story. He left work at 2 p.m. to recharge his batteries. As soon as he got home, Sung-han felt like he had been recharged. He immediately made his bed and bought snacks and fruits. Everything was to prepare for the evening because his nephew Gi-young would be coming to visit today. Sung-han finally got to see the boy again, but the driver announced that he would pick Ji-young up at 9 a.m. Although he felt a little regretful because of the limited time, he felt it was very precious. The two of them played to their heart's content without worrying about anything. Before parting, Sung-han couldn't help but ask why Ji-young had to go home so soon. Ji-young said that the reason was because Ji-young's grandmother was about to return from America, so the whole family couldn't be careless. Sung-han sighed, remembering that woman he had only met once at his sister's wedding. Sung-han asked her to take care of Ju-hwa, and she said that was obvious. Sung-han said his sister was very soft-hearted and kind, but she said that one shouldn't be too kind because that was a weakness. Sung-han remembered this for a long time. Because Ju-hwa was too kind, she was made difficult by their family. Now that Grandma Gi-young had returned, it was definitely not simply to reunite with her grandson. In a deserted park corridor, Hyung-gun sat quietly. In his hand was a message from Ji-yeon, his wife who had been separated for a while. Last time, Ji-yeon couldn't tell him that she was pregnant and now wanted to stop. The woman Hyung-jin once loved deeply now left when she was pregnant with someone else. His heart felt like it was being torn apart, the pain seeping into every breath he took, choking and difficult to speak. To temporarily forget pain, Hyung-jin went to a familiar noodle shop and ordered a very spicy dish. People say that food can heal all wounds in the human heart. He hoped that just a sip of the spicy soup would help him feel better, but the spiciness rushed straight up his nose, making Hyung-jin cringe. In the end, he had to ease the bitterness with a bit of wine from the owner named So-yeon. However, the spicy noodles could not soothe the sadness that was stirring in his heart. That night, his friends gathered around and thought that Hyung-jin was crying because of Sung-han's story. While they were angry on his behalf, Hyung-gun quietly opened his phone to show them the text messages. "I'm pregnant. Let's stop here." Sung-han said that this wasn't Hyung-jin's child. It would be even more awkward if he raised someone else's child. It turned out that was the reason Hyung-jin was crying. The two friends were silent, not knowing what to say to Hyung-jin's pain. They could only sit next to Hyung-jin, but Hyung-jin chased them both away. Hyung-jin didn't want anyone to see his weakness. Afraid that you would get too excited and do something stupid, they quietly cleaned up everything. Only Hyung-gun was left alone in the middle of the night to reminisce about the beautiful memories. The following days were not easy for Hyung-gun at all. When he had just calmed down at the noodle shop, Ji-yeon suddenly called. Her voice was weak, saying that her stomach was in severe pain. Ji-yeon asked Hyung-jin to help take her to the hospital. As soon as Hyung-jin hung up, he reflexively reached for the car keys. Luckily, So-yeon stopped Hyung-gun in time. Otherwise, Hyung-jin would have been driving drunk and could have caused an accident. Seeing Hyung-jin like that, So-yeon couldn't bear to leave him alone. She became an involuntary driver. Thanks to So-yeon, Ji-eun was taken to the hospital in time, and her life was not in danger. On the way, So-yeon realized that the woman was actually Hyung-jin's wife. She suddenly wondered why Hyung-jin's wife had just gotten pregnant. Why was he drinking all day? But no matter how curious she was, So-yeon knew that she shouldn't interfere in other people's marital affairs. After finishing helping, So-yeon just waited quietly outside the emergency room. In the hospital, Hyung-jin finally met the man. It was Ji-eun's lover, the man she was carrying his child with. Trying to hold back his pain, Hyung-jin briefly told her about Ji-eun's health condition. Just as he was about to leave, he couldn't help but turn back and say that Ji-eun wasn't feeling well. He just happened to be nearby, so he took her to the hospital. That's all. The man was gentle and only knew how to bow his head to say thank you and then softly apologized to Hyung-gun. It was that kindness that made Hyung-gun feel more pain than any reproach. Maybe it was time for him to let go of Ji-eun. At this time, Sung-han called to order crabs in soy sauce as usual, but through the tone of his voice, Sung-han immediately realized that there was something strange about Hyung-gun. His intuition told him that his best friend was having a hard time, so he immediately went to see Hyung-gun in person. Although Hyung-gun tried to hide it, his red and swollen eyes revealed everything. Understanding that feeling, Sunghan and Jung-sik did not ask much, but quietly poured wine and sat down to drink with Hyung-gun. After drinking a few glasses of wine, Hyung-jin could not help but finally confide in him. Hyung-gun recounted that he had met the man who was currently living with Ji-eun. Contrary to Hyung-gun's imagination, that person looked very gentle and even bowed his head to apologize to Hyung-gun. It was that unexpected kindness that made him feel more bitter than angry. The story continued to become confusing when Hyung-gun revealed that Ji-eun had called him because she had a severe stomachache. While Ji-eun's lover was away on a business trip, she didn't call an ambulance because she felt embarrassed. Despite all the pain he had been through, Hyung-jin still rushed to help Ji-eun. As if by instinct, Sunghan and Jung-sik just listened silently. Then they used a special way for men to ease their mood, which was taking virtual photos. Hyung-jin stood by the window, his eyes heavy with sadness. Jung-sik quickly took a photo of that moment and teased that Hyung-jin looked very tall and photogenic. The laughter between the three friends only helped to ease the sadness temporarily. No matter how light the moment was, Hyung-gun's marriage was still an open wound. On the way back, Gi-young's grandmother, Jung-hee, wanted to go see her grandson. Jung-hee wondered if she would take him to Hawaii to live with her. The driver replied that her daughter-in-law might object. She also wanted to prevent Ji-young from seeing him once a month. At the same time, Sunghan unexpectedly received a special young guest. It was the son of the man who wanted a divorce. He had flown back from the US. No one understood why the boy had come to the office when Sunghan had not yet accepted the case. However, Min-soo seriously asked if the undecided person was his father or the lawyer. Sunghan replied that he had not decided yet. The boy said that his father had liver cancer and needed a liver transplant, but his mother had absolutely no intention of donating a liver. The irony was that Jung-ho's lover was willing to donate his weak liver to save him. Min-soo admitted that the situation was ironic, but also a blessing in disguise. The problem was that Min-soo's mother had to agree to a divorce before the transplant could proceed. Despite his young age, the boy understood the situation very well. He even explained it very clearly. The boy's sudden appearance today was clearly not out of curiosity, but had a purpose. Min-soo continued. He was 15 years old and could voluntarily donate organs. In that situation, Sunghan calmly explained the current organ transplant regulations. People who were not related by blood would be strictly checked, and it was not easy to get approved. People who were related by blood were no exception. They all had to go through many stages of assessment, but Min-soo was not afraid. The boy's eyes were determined and showed maturity. For Min-soo, watching his loved ones wait to die was more terrifying than going to the operating table. At this time, the decision he made was not impulsive, but a trade-off. Min-soo wanted to use his father's life to save him. When he returned home that night, Sunghan's words still echoed in his head. A boy who was only 16 years old could be so decisive and mature. With Sojin's sincere advice, Sunghan finally wavered. The next morning, he took the initiative to meet Jung-ho to talk things out. The lawyer said his son had come to him, and Sunghan agreed to help Jung-ho. Sunghan said that if he started, he had to win. Sunghan only had two requests that the husband had to do. One was all or nothing. After Ji-eun knew that Ji-suk wanted to be his official wife, she called her son Min-soo back from America. Ji-eun was very angry. She didn't need a man, but Ji-eun wouldn't accept anyone standing in the way of her son's future. Making Min-soo donate his liver was beyond her last limit. Ji-eun didn't believe that was her son's idea. She thought that Ji-suk had forced him to do it. However, Min-soo insisted that it was his decision and no one forced him. He said he would donate his liver to his father and hoped that his mother wouldn't force him to return to America to study. Divorce was a matter between two people, but Min-soo was always willing to donate his liver to save his father. Ji-eun was in pain because if Min-soo gave up studying in America, his future would collapse. However, Min-soo did not care. He insisted on living and studying in Korea. She was angry and screamed. Ji-eun did not accept that the son of a professor did not go to college, but he still stood his ground, and even though he did not donate his liver, Min-soo still wanted to live in his hometown. Because she could not convince her son, Ji-eun went to Ji-suk to vent her anger. She scolded Ji-suk for being uneducated. She was not worthy of being a professor's wife. Ji-eun thought that Ji-suk wanted to take advantage of donating her liver to change her life and become an official wife. She bitterly said that Ji-suk had been a hairdresser all her life, so now she sought fame with a liver. In response, Ji-suk said that Ji-eun had lived her whole life only because of the title of a professor's wife. Ji-eun despised her. She thought her husband had really chosen the wrong woman. Ji-eun affirmed that Jung-ho's success was thanks to her. She gave up her career to focus on her family. Ji-eun used to be an editor-in-chief, but retired to become a housewife to support her husband's development. However, Ji-suk only coldly boldly replied that she was willing to donate her liver, but Ji-eun was not. Ji-suk thought she was more noble. Ji-eun was the one who saw death but did not save it. That sentence made Ji-eun explode, and a war of words between the two quickly broke out. Just because of a bad man, the two women rushed to pull each other's hair and fight. Ji-eun would rather be a widow than divorce. Knowing that Ji-suk wanted to take her place, she hated Ji-suk even more. The situation was getting more and more tense. Sooner or later something big would happen. Fortunately, thanks to Sunghan's special guidance, they finally found the key evidence. Finally, with the recording, Jung-ho was able to take Ji-eun to court to clarify everything. In that part, Ji-eun said that if she cancelled the contract, she would not receive the insurance money. She could only claim back the premium she had paid, but her insurance benefits were completely gone. Ji-eun emphasized that it was thanks to the insurance money that she and her child were able to continue to survive. Jung-ho used that secret recording to expose his wife to the law. Even though the method was illegal, he still insisted on divorcing and regaining control. That action caused Jung-ho to be convicted of revealing personal information, and he had to take legal responsibility. But in return, Ji-suk got the official status that she had always wanted. Ji-eun couldn't accept the fact that, after everything, she ended up with nothing and lost it all. However, she also understood that continuing to hold on would only make her more tired. Jung-ho now faces a lawsuit for violating the law on protecting personal information. He is afraid that it will be difficult for him to end his career with an honorable retirement. No one knows if Ji-suk still wants to donate his liver after knowing this. In another story, during a camping trip, Hyung-gun was still tormented by unresolved heartbreak. He still hoped that Ji-eun would come back, but reality woke him up. Everyone advised Hyung-gun to break up with Ji-eun because she would not come back. He reluctantly accepted, but Hyung-gun wanted to give his soon-to-be divorced wife a farewell gift. After consulting everyone, he decided to buy an expensive stroller. It was said that mothers were very happy to receive strollers. Hyung-gun planned to give Ji-eun this gift himself, but Sung-han said that the gift she wanted was a divorce petition. Hyung-gun completed the divorce petition and even stamped it. The stroller became a divorce gift and a symbol of the end. After that, Hyung-gun decided to bring the stroller to meet Ji-eun. He gave Ji-eun the divorce agreement she was expecting. It turns out that love is not about possession, but about making the other person happy. Hyung-gun finally let go of the shackles in his heart. He apologized to Ji-eun for holding on for too long, and Hyung-gun wished her a happy life. Then he cried for his love. The sun was just starting to rise when Sung-han quietly returned from the cemetery with a bouquet of white flowers that his sister liked beside him. When he returned to the office, Sung-han was completely different from his usual days. Hyung-gun saw this and comforted his friend. When he tried to help remove the toilet paper from his eyelids, Sung-han immediately pushed Hyung-gun away. That made Hyung-jun immediately lose interest. Hyung-jun knew that Sung-han had just visited Juhwa's grave. Sung-han blamed Hyung-jun for sending someone to follow him. Hyung-jun replied that Jong-sik and he both remembered that today was Juhwa's birthday. Sung-han shyly removed the toilet paper himself. It seemed that he cried his eyes out because of his older sister today. Juhwa was divorced and then unexpectedly passed away. From an artist, Sung-han became a divorce lawyer. He only cried out loud on his older sister's birthday. But on such a sad day, her mother-in-law came uninvited. To avoid tension, Jong-sik lied to Gum-hee that Sung-han was not in the room, but she was not easily fooled. Hyung-gun had to speak up and tell Sung-han. Sung-han was in the room and was interrupted by a knock on the door. When he saw his older sister's mother-in-law appear, he awkwardly stepped forward. Jung-hee sat down naturally. She came to ask Sung-han where he buried his older sister. Did he choose a good feng shui or location? As a mother-in-law, she did not know where her daughter-in-law was buried. This made Sung-han dissatisfied. He asked her the purpose of her coming here. Gum-hee only answered briefly that it was because she was late. When Juhwa died, she did not have time to return. Now Gum-hee came back to make up for her condolences. She asked her son, but he said he did not know. The new daughter-in-law did not understand. Jung-hee said she would handle it herself, but she still admired his calm demeanor. Sung-han was able to stay calm without saying anything harsh about what she had done. He wanted to subtly ask Gum-hee to leave. Sung-han immediately gave her his business card and told her to call him if she wanted a divorce. Jung-hee understood. She smirked with self-satisfaction and reminded him to stay strong. Jung-hee warned Sung-han that if he was too gentle, he would cause big trouble in the law. After she left, Sung-han sat down on the sofa and cried. He didn't dare to think about how his older sister had endured her married life. That evening, when Jung-hee returned home, she noticed that Ji-young had no time for himself. The evil daughter-in-law Young-ju controlled everything, which made Jung-hee very heartbroken. She asked her if she had taken Ji-young to visit her mother, but she said that Ji-young had never asked to go. Jung-hee asked if it wasn't because Young-ju had prevented Gi-young from visiting his mother. She then criticized Young-ju for still playing the role of a good mother and good wife after Juhwa's death. But how could Young-ju sleep well at night? night. The daughter-in-law was angry and told her daughter to go somewhere else. Young-ju blamed her mother-in-law for talking about that in front of her daughter. Gum-hee didn't pay attention to what Young-ju said. She ordered Young-ju to find Juhwa's grave so she could take Gi-young to visit his mother herself. Young-ju strongly objected and said that this was her family's business, so there was no need for her mother-in-law to interfere. Jim-hee laughed loudly and said that this family originally belonged to Gi-young. This family did not belong to Young-ju. Young-ju insisted that this family should have been hers in the first place. If it weren't for her mother-in-law's objection, she wouldn't have had to beat around the bush like that. In the end, Jong-guk still chose Young-ju. That was undeniable. Jim-hee agreed with Young-ju that because her son chose her, she opened her mouth to talk to Young-ju. The daughter-in-law couldn't respond, but Young-ju still refused to listen. That day, Young-ju knew that her mother-in-law was coming to see Sung-han, so Young-ju took the initiative to call Sung-han. Sung-han saw a familiar phone number that was similar to the last call his sister received before she passed away. Although the police told Sung-han at that time that it was his sister's friend's phone number and the call was for help, but when Sung-han called back, it was an unoccupied number. Now seeing this number, Sung-han was suspicious but still picked up the phone. The other end of the line introduced himself as Young-ju and Jong-guk's wife. When he picked up the phone, he thought Young-ju was calling him about Ji-young, but she said there was something else. Sung-han firmly refused her request. He just wanted to talk to the boy's father. Young-ju felt that everyone was the same, as if she had pushed Juhwa into the car and caused a collision. Young-ju secretly envied Juhwa, who had passed away. At this time, Sung-han at home suddenly stood up. Sung-han returned to the office and colored the last grape. He seemed to understand that people cannot be too kind. Tolerating the enemy's family is to harm oneself. That day, Sung-han received a new client who wanted to sue for a divorce. He was willing to help if the request was reasonable, but Sung-han wondered why he was looking for him. The client immediately gave him his business card and said that this girl told him to come find him. Looking at the business card, Sung-han understood something. Young-ju was the director of Kumwa law firm. His older sister's divorce was caused by Young-ju. Before his sister died, Young-ju also called. Sung-han decided to put aside his kindness. He launched a final counterattack. Sung-han was determined not to forgive all those who had harmed Juhwa, a Korean farmer who only knew how to farm. Chun-suk married a young Vietnamese bride. He became the target of everyone's attacks before he even understood what was happening. His wife was being used by the worst law firm in Korea to attract views. At the law firm's headquarters, Chun-suk brought a hammer and wanted to take his wife and children home. The law firm's staff stopped him and said that Din Ti-hwa and his children were under their protection. Chun-suk said that if she came across a woman leaving with a child like that, she should have advised her to return home. After all, being a wife and a mother at home is still the safest choice. Young-ju stepped forward and told Chun-suk that his wife was suing for divorce. If he made a fuss, they would get a restraining order. Chun-suk didn't understand what she was saying because he just wanted to take his wife and children home. The scared wife hid in the corner of the room when she heard her husband calling her repeatedly. Chun-suk became more and more agitated. He screamed and fell to the ground. Young-ju continued to step forward and advised Chun-suk to find lawyer Sung-han. Young-ju said Sung-han would help him as much as possible and gave him his business card. Chun-suk reluctantly accepted the business card and trusted her. In fact, the husband had become Young-ju's tool against Sung-han. Chun-suk honestly went to Sung-han's office. After receiving the business card, Sung-han quickly saw through Young-ju's intentions. He prepared carefully and then aggressively went to Kumwa's office. When he met Yu-so, the lawyer said that he actually came to return the item to Young-ju. Sung-han admitted that he had joked too much. He asked Yu-so to tell her the number 1225 was the perfect opportunity for the plan. After instructing Yu-so, Sung-han left Kumwa's office with confidence. Yu-so didn't understand what was going on, so he took the business card and went to find Young-ju. Young-ju was very pleased to see Sung-han was smart, but also fell into a trap. But before she could be happy, the number 1225 confused Young-ju. It was clear that Sung-han's sister's grudge for breaking up their marriage was not something that could be easily forgiven. On this side, the mother-in-law had just been talked back to by her daughter-in-law. She recalled the conversation with Sung-han about Juhwa's departure. The lawyer suspected that it was more than just a simple traffic accident. Gum-hee had always been fond of Juhwa. She also felt that something was wrong. Jom-hae had been abroad for many years, so she didn't know what to say. She only kept the business card that Sung-han left behind. Gum-hee asked Sung-han if he dared to guarantee that they would win the case. Sung-han wasn't sure, but this battle would definitely be fierce. Last time, Gum-hee came to him with the intention of divorce, but the nosy daughter-in-law ran to complain to her father-in-law. She complained that she had a hard time being Gi-young's stepmother. This time, Young-ju had encountered Ji-young's uncle, so conflict was inevitable. Young-ju also blamed her mother-in-law mother-in-law and implied that her mother-in-law wanted to divorce Chang Jin. Chang Jin not only did not listen but also advised Youngju not to pay too much attention to it, especially the deceased mother and Gi Young's only uncle. Youngju was afraid that if her husband got bored with her, things would be difficult to resolve. Youngju, because she was greedy for immediate benefits, immediately arranged the media and used the headline that this man abused a Vietnamese bride to attract attention. Her purpose was to bring the battle of wits to the public, to make Sung Han lose his reputation as a divorce lawyer. But Youngju was too stupid. She did not understand the situation but already assumed that Chun Suk did not have the advantage. Sung Han was smart, so through a simple exchange, he denied the possibility of violence from his husband. Din Thi Hoa raised her left hand to block the stick to protect herself, leading to a fracture in her left arm. Chun Suk had periarthritis in his shoulder, so he couldn't raise his right hand, so the husband could only hit his wife with his left hand. When Sung-in tried to attack Hyung-jun with his left hand, Hyung-jo raised his right hand as a natural reaction. To clarify this, Hyung-jun was forced to take on the investigation task at this time. Jung-hee still didn't know anything, so Jung-hee didn't volunteer to go to the company. Chang Jin invited her home because he wanted to make up for the past years, but Gum-hee refused. Chang Jin remembered Youngju's words and he understood a little, but he certainly wouldn't divorce easily. So Jung-hee had to go to Sung Han. Although the situation was difficult, Sung Han wasn't afraid. The only thing he cared about was that he didn't want to be exposed too much. After all, the divorce of a conglomerate's head would cause a stir in public opinion. While they were chatting happily, Chun Suk called. Sung Han just found out that Chun Suk had been turned into the main character of cyber violence. Looking at the unpleasant headlines, Sung Han felt worried about Chun Suk. After hearing the news, he confidently said that Chun Suk needed to regain his honor. Chun Suk had to deny that someone like Chun Suk had no honor anymore. Sung Han advised Chun Suk to prove that he was not the one who paid to buy young foreign women to bring home to abuse. This was Chun Suk's honor. The wronged husband burst into tears because he was grateful for Sung Han's words. At this time, Sung Han was also ready to fight. He was determined to use every means. Even if he had to become the subject of everyone's gossip, Sung Han would regain Chun Suk's honor. The 50-year-old Korean man was single, and he finally married a young Vietnamese girl. But this was seen as a marriage for sale. Chun Suk just thought that he didn't need to care what others said and that he just needed to live his life well. But his wife suddenly asked for a divorce, making Chun Suk angry. He screamed and smashed everything in the house. Chun Suk had once gone through great effort to bring her from Vietnam so she could live a life without worrying about basic needs. He also had to support his wife's family in Vietnam. Now he was in this situation. Chun Suk was extremely angry. The neighbor heard the noise and ran over to stop him. The woman did not want to go home and she abandoned her child and ran away. But the next day, the wife returned home. She begged her husband to take the child back to Vietnam. In a fit of anger, Chun Suk grabbed a stick and rushed at his wife. The neighbor heard the noise and called the police, so the wife was temporarily free. Lawyer Yu Seok taught the Vietnamese bride every word and phrase to say in court. It turned out that it was all a fabrication. The Coma law firm deliberately created public opinion just to take advantage of her to bring down Sung Han. On this side, Sung Han had realized Chun Suk's poor health very early on. He was completely unable to swing a stick to hit anyone. Although he was not educated, Chun Suk was certain that he had never hit anyone. He had to work so hard in the fields every day that his body was exhausted and he had no energy to fight back. In the second conversation, he said that the person he hated most in life was his father. When he was a child, Chun Suk had witnessed his father beating his mother repeatedly, which became a deep obsession for him. Therefore, he vowed that he would never beat his wife or use violence against anyone in his life. To this day, Chun Suk still does not understand what he did wrong, that his wife wanted to divorce him. It was absurd that his Vietnamese wife voluntarily gave up her permanent residency. Sung Han felt sorry for him and decided to help him in any way he could. He changed public opinion by appearing on a TV show with Seo Jin. Sung Han's identity as a former pianist was also made public during the filming. Netizens were surprised to know that the man playing the piano in the famous video was Sung Han. The divorce lawyer suddenly became a mysterious figure that was discussed all over the online forums. When the program reached the final topic, they asked Sung Han about the most impressive lawsuit. He replied that all lawsuits were complicated and none were simple. Seo Jin asked for more details. Sung Han mentioned the divorce of the Vietnamese Korean couple. The wife unilaterally divorced, and his client still doesn't understand why the wife wanted to divorce her husband. As soon as he said that, Sung Han was heavily criticized online for talking about a sensitive issue. This story quickly became the center of public attention. Sung Han had to endure the curses of netizens. At this time, Sung Han's opponent began to sense that something unusual was happening. Youngju suspected that Sung Han had grasped something important that was why he acted so strongly. She immediately called Choi Jun, a spy, to inquire about the specific situation. It turned out that Choi Jun had long been aware of both sides. He had not missed any details. Knowing that Choi Jun was clever, Young-ju enticed him with the promise of giving him Yoo Seok's position. As long as he provided valuable information, she was willing to help him advance in his career. Meanwhile, Sung-han also secretly sent Hyung-gun to Gangnam to investigate more clues. Not long after, he collected valuable information related to Chun-suk's past. Since his father's time, Chun-suk had been a regular customer of the local pesticide store. However, one day, he suddenly moved to another place without a clear reason. His unusual actions caused everyone around to speculate and suspect. When the store owner told him, the truth gradually emerged and everything became clearer. The neighbors all knew something, but no one dared to directly tell Chun-suk. His wife was still too young. She often used the excuse of learning Korean to go out all day. Din Thi-hoa also often kept in close contact with a Vietnamese man. Although he was tired of making a living, Chun-suk was still misunderstood by his best friend, just because this friend reminded him of it. In return, he received anger and alienation from his best friend of decades. When Sung-han had enough clues, he decided to meet Chun-suk again. Before the trial, Sung-han looked at his haggard and tired face and understood that things were not simple. In Sung-han's heart, there was only one thing that needed to be verified, and he was determined to ask clearly about this matter. On the day of the trial, after Sung-han confirmed all the information, he entered the courtroom. He calmly asked his wife Din Thi-hoa only one question, and it was full of weight. Sung-han asked her if the child named Young-gwang was Chun-suk's biological son. The woman bowed her head and replied that she did not know where the child's biological father was. The truth was revealed. Din Thi-hoa had used the excuse of learning Korean to have an affair. She had maintained a close relationship with a Vietnamese man all this time. But Chun-suk had long known that the child did not have his blood. Because he loved his old mother, he endured everything and tried to keep the family from falling apart. Chun-suk had hoped that the two could live on and start a new family. Sung-han then requested a blood test to verify the truth. The test results showed that Young-gwang was not Chun-suk's biological child. Finally, the truth was revealed, and the gentle Chun-suk was completely cleared. On the other side, a woman ended her own life. She was rushed to the emergency room. The husband arrived late. He stood crying in front of his mother-in-law, but he could not shed a single tear. Immediately after that, Hun-tae sat in the living room, watching a comedy show and laughing nonchalantly. Having such a heartless husband, a woman's fate is truly 8 lifetimes of misfortune. That day, the wife, Min-jung, in despair, went to Sung-han's divorce law office. She couldn't speak. The pain seemed to have locked her throat. A few days later, the news of Min-jung's attempt to end her life shocked everyone. So-jin rushed to the hospital. She saw Min-jung's parents sitting there, waiting with haggard faces. Although this was not the right time, So-jin was forced to tell the story of Min-jung wanting to divorce her husband. Her mother, Mrs. A-sim, didn't understand why her daughter wanted to leave such a good husband. She thought that Min-jung wanted to live alone, and that she wanted to bear the rest of her life alone. It seemed that A-sim really didn't know anything about pain her daughter had to endure silently. Min-jung once thought that if she continued to live like that, it would be the same tomorrow or next year. So she decided to end everything early. Min-jung didn't want to wait another day. Since she was a child, she suffered from schizophrenia, so her parents took good care of her. One time when she went to church, her mother noticed a gentle-looking young man. After asking carefully, she knew that Hyun-tae was a truly capable and virtuous person, so she wanted to introduce him to her daughter. Love began to blossom and made Min-jung's illness show signs of stabilization and improvement. To build a small family, Min-jung tried to study to get a coffee-making license and opened a shop with the help of her parents. But after getting married, Hyun-tae became lazy and left everything to his wife to take care of. Overwork caused Min-jung's illness to relapse. Her mental health gradually declined. Suddenly, Hyun-tae started showing interest in Min-jung. He even joined the Schizophrenia Patients Family Association. Hun-tae played the role of a model husband, making outsiders believe that Min-jung was truly loved by him. So why did Min-jung choose to end her life in that situation? After listening to the story, Sung-han felt that something was unusual that needed to be clarified immediately. He decided to join the Schizophrenia Patients Family Association to find out the truth behind the fake shell. Maybe this would be the turning point and open a way out for poor Min-jung. Choi Jun would be in charge of this case. The next day, he went to meet the organizer of the Schizophrenia Patients Family meeting. Choi Jun investigated carefully, but everyone praised Hyun-tae as a kind husband. It seemed that Sung-han had misjudged this time, or he was missing something. Soon, the day of reconciliation at the civil court arrived. Choi Jun had prepared everything carefully. As soon as the trial opened, he listed a series of unreasonable demands from Hyun-tae's siblings. Their family asked Min-jung to give them gifts, clothes, and household items every 2 months. Currently, the defendant's brother brother's house is fully furnished with amenities given by Minjeong, such as a dryer and refrigerator. Even the expensive 62-inch TV and toaster came from Minjeong's bank card. Most recently, on his sister-in-law's birthday, Minjeong was forced to buy a designer bag and had to wait in line to buy it. Text messages exchanged between the two showed that his sister-in-law only needed Minjeong to give her the card, and Minjeong would take care of the rest. In the face of such unreasonable requests, Hyun-tae did not object and completely obediently complied. The reason was because Hyun-tae's stepdaughter was being taken care of by his brother and sister-in-law. The problem was that Hyun-tae had kept the fact that he had a stepdaughter a secret. He did not say anything before marrying Minjeong. When he found out that his niece was actually her husband's illegitimate child, Minjeong was extremely hurt and resentful. Hyun-tae's lawyer argued that Hyun-tae always regretted and sincerely apologized to her every day. They said that even though he knew his wife was sick, he still loved and cared for her all his life. But Choi Jun was not easily convinced. He immediately counterattacked with solid evidence. Choi Jun asked Hyun-tae about the Heartwaves Forum, which is a place for relatives of mentally ill patients. It turned out that during the meeting at the forum, Hyun-tae lied that his sister was mentally ill. Meanwhile, the time Hyun-tae joined the forum was 5 days after he went to church to meet Minjeong. This proved that he knew about Minjeong's illness from the beginning and that he approached Minjeong with complete intention. When exposed, Hyun-tae justified that he wanted to prove that he could take good care of Minjeong. Hyun-tae thought that if he patiently listened to Minjeong's nonsense, her parents would agree to marry their daughter to him. That distorted mentality shocked everyone in the courtroom, and no one could defend Hyun-tae anymore. Choi Jun continued to question why Hyun-tae wasn't worried when Minjeong was hospitalized for a drug overdose. Why did he sit and laugh watching a comedy in the waiting room and not show any panic? To expose Hyun-tae's fake face, Choi Jun showed a recording of Hyun-tae cursing his own parents-in-law. He scolded them for hiding Minjeong's illness to deceive him. This caused Hyun-tae to suffer a great loss. He even insulted his poor educational background and yelled at his father-in-law. Minjeong's father was a veteran in the church, but was still mercilessly insulted by Hyun-tae. In the end, his true nature was revealed and Choi Jun couldn't bear it. Choi Jun rushed in and beat Hyun-tae in the middle of the court. Although it was a bit difficult, it made Hyun-tae silent. Thanks to that, Minjeong successfully divorced after exposing Hyun-tae's fake mask. Hopefully from now on, she will learn to love herself and not let others hurt her anymore. Being the wife of a tycoon is not easy. Even though the outside is always luxurious and powerful, behind that glitz is a series of days of silently dealing with her husband's affairs. Whenever they run out of money, those women come to Gyeomhee to demand money. Some people come back to Gyeomhee every 2 years and bring out abortion certificates to pressure her. Some want a house, some want a car, all of which Gyeomhee recorded in a thick notebook. Now Gyeomhee doesn't want to be patient anymore. She decided to file a lawsuit for divorce. Gyeomhee brought that notebook and years of humiliation to lawyer Sung-han for help. Chang Jin's mistress list now becomes the most obvious evidence against him. When he knows that he is being sued, Chang Jin calls the most arrogant woman to help settle the case. That person is none other than Young-ju. Although she is uncomfortable hearing his request, she still does not dare to disobey her father-in-law. Young-ju is forced to leave Kumwa's office to serve as a communication tool for him. But deep down, she still has her own intentions and has other goals to achieve. Young-ju asks Chang Jin what benefits he will give her if she helps him settle the case. As expected, she asks Chang Jin to transfer the shares he intended to give to Ji-young. The chairman thinks for a moment and then agrees to let Young-ju put the shares in his daughter Ha-yul's name. However, he warns her not to dream of touching Gi-young's share because it is impossible. When she asks him what if the lawsuit fails, Chang Jin emphasizes that Young-ju has nothing left to bargain with. So, despite her clever calculations, she still couldn't win against the old fox. Young-ju had to win this lawsuit. She had no chance to turn back or compromise. So she changed her attitude and withdrew from the top position in the prestigious Kumwa office. Yoo-seok discovered that Young-ju had abandoned Kumwa and also abandoned an important chess piece. He understood that her nature was not the type to easily give up power and status. Her decisive withdrawal was definitely a sign that a new plot was about to be deployed. The next morning, to find a way out for himself, Jong-sik became the first person Yoo-seok met. He hoped to ask Jong-sik for help to return to the office, but Yoo-seok was treated like a thorn by Jong-sik. Unexpectedly, every single move of his was secretly monitored by Young-ju. It seemed that the confrontation between these two calculating people would sooner or later become fierce. At the same time, in order to help Gyeomhee win the lawsuit and get back her 20% of the shares, Sung-han focused on analyzing the book, recording her husband's emotional debts. This was very important evidence, but Sung-han still wondered why she decided to divorce now. Gyeomhee admitted that she had delayed the divorce out of fear and told herself that she would endure it, but as she got older, she began to regret it and knew that she could not endure it forever. Jong-hee chose Sung-han not only because of his ability but also because she thought that only he was determined enough to go all the way. When asked the real reason, she frankly said that she needed money to stand on her own 2 feet. Sung-han appreciated her trust and was determined to do his best to help Gom-hee get the share she deserved. Therefore, Sung-han compiled documents day and night. He looked for every loophole to prepare an accurate counterattack. On the day of the meeting, Sung-han confidently entered the group headquarters with the most important evidence. He gave all the data to the other side's 6 lawyers. They said that if this was enough evidence, it meant that Jong-hee had prepared it for a long time. But Sung-han immediately retorted that she was not preparing for a divorce, but was just holding back the pain. Each line of notes was a bitter trace after many years of protecting her husband and Como Company. Jong-hee had tried to prevent scandals and conceal her husband's affairs to protect the family's honor. Those documents were not attacks, but scars that would not heal over time. Faced with Sung-han's sharp arguments, the other side's lawyers did not argue but chose to discuss. It was this gentle attitude that made Sung-han begin to feel uneasy, because a divorce in a chaebol family could not possibly go so smoothly. Surely behind that calm appearance was another calculation that he had not yet guessed. A seemingly perfect husband controls his wife to the point of suffocation in both work and clothing. In the guise of a happy marriage, So-jin is suspected and pressured to the point of suffocation every day. It is that restraint that makes her make mistakes and almost lose custody of her child when she is at her weakest. Thanks to Sung-han's intervention, So-jin is able to escape from a marriage that is like a chain disguised as a flashy disguise. Similarly, Min-jung lives with a mentally abusive husband who hides his illegitimate child from her. The accumulated trauma makes her fall into despair. Min-jung once wanted to end her life. It was Sung-han who helped her regain her freedom and regain the will to live she had lost. Perhaps Sung-han's greatest wish is to protect justice and the weak. That is why, when the owner of the familiar restaurant that Sung-han often visits asked him if there was anything wrong with his soul, Sung-han didn't get married but kept interfering in other people's divorces, so she felt something was wrong. He just smiled and didn't argue back, because Sung-han himself understood the reason why he was moving forward. The image of a divorce lawyer was the opposite of the image of a musician, but he still chose not to give up, because his younger sister, who used to be in this profession, helped Sung-han believe that he could be a support for others, and it was that belief that made him gradually understand what true strength was in life. So-jin was once helped by Sung-han, and she won custody of her child. Because she was a celebrity, So-jin made a mistake that caused public opinion to heavily criticize her. She couldn't even raise her head. So-jin didn't dare take the subway or go out. She bought all the things in her house online to avoid being scrutinized. Even So-jin chose sneakers for her child based on their appearance. Hyun-woo asked why she didn't try the shoes on in person to be sure. Her son's question made So-jin think about freedom. However, she still couldn't let go of her inferiority complex. Just to take out the trash, So-jin had to disguise herself carefully. Today, she decided to try going out without makeup. Although she wasn't confident enough, So-jin still quietly went down to the apartment building. The neighbors immediately looked at her with strange eyes and started gossiping. So-jin felt uncomfortable and wanted to fight back but didn't dare to speak. So-jin's newly formed courage gradually disappeared. After the company meeting, So-jin met a drunk man who claimed to be her fan. Luckily, Sung-han helped her escape the dangerous situation in time. Although she was protected, So-jin still had doubts in her heart. As time passed, her pain grew like a rolling snowball. She almost collapsed, but Sung-han realized So-jin's weakness. He advised her to be strong. Even though it was difficult, she would overcome it. So-jin had won custody of her child before and had suffered a lot. This time, So-jin was determined not to fall like before. After understanding, So-jin dressed up to pick up her son from school the next day. This was the first time she had gone out since the incident that caused a stir in public opinion. Her mother's unusual actions made her son feel the difference. Although So-jin had not yet calmed down, he was still happy that his mother wanted to change. So-jin wanted to make it up to Hyun-woo with her whole life. Only when she regained her spirit did she and her son become better. So-jin regained her courage and returned to being an MC. Everyone sent their support, but some accounts continued to attack. That account not only continuously left malicious comments, but also attacked her son, which made So-jin very heartbroken. Although she was mentally prepared, she could not bear to see her son hurt. So-jin decided to use legal means to meet the person behind that account. When she met her, she was surprised to know that she was a 14-year-old girl. So-jin asked why she did such a mean thing. The girl apologized, but she didn't need an apology. She wanted to understand why she did it. The girl's mother was having an affair with a rich man. Her father suffered from depression and cancer. Her grandmother was very sad because she lost her son, but she didn't dare to leave this world because she loved her grandchild. The girl felt that her mother mother didn't care for her and was abandoned, so she was very miserable. Sojin understood her pain because she herself had struggled. The girl was too pitiful to have to endure such a great injustice. Although Sojin couldn't forgive her right away, Sojin still kindly advised her not to write malicious comments anymore. If she needed help, she should find a lawyer. No one in this world understands everything, but she should keep a good heart. God will definitely treat those who are honest and good. Why are good people often hurt so much? A woman who just gave birth was forced to divorce by her husband's lover. It was raining heavily that day, so Ju-hwa reluctantly ate her fill. She received a call from Young-ju with the news that she had been promoted. Young-ju was interested in Jong-gu's assets. She was worried that Ju-hwa would still want to fight for the assets with her after the divorce. To eliminate this threat, Young-ju decided to bully Ju-hwa to the end. She was so vicious that she wanted to abandon Ju-hwa's son. Ju-hwa wondered where her son would be taken in despair. Ju-hwa didn't want Kumhwa's assets at all. She just wanted to get Gi-young back. Ju-hwa begged Young-ju to return her son. However, Young-ju was still aggressive and cruel. The vicious words stabbed Ju-hwa like needles. She only wanted her son and didn't ask for anything else. Unexpectedly, the tycoon family proposed such a perverse divorce. When Ju-hwa was confused and didn't know how to deal with everything, an unexpected incident happened that caused Gi-young to lose his mother. Since then, the boy was no longer as happy as before. Over the years, under the strict control of his stepmother, Gi-young gradually lost faith. Even his close driver uncle was implicated. He couldn't pretend to be strong anymore, so he had to ask Sung-han for help. Gi-young told Sung-han that because he wasn't his parent, he couldn't do anything. Hearing that, Sung-han was heartbroken when he understood everything. In Korea, gaining custody of a child is very difficult, but this was Sung-han's purpose of studying law. To save his nephew, Sung-han decided to take a risk. He comforted Ji-young to ease the boy's heart. In order to not worry Gi-young's father, Sung-han called him directly. Sung-han said that he would only take Ji-young home after dinner. No matter what the father wanted to decide, he had to look at Young-ju's expression. Sung-han only informed Gi-young's father. He didn't care what Young-ju decided. He insisted on letting Gi-young have a warm dinner. The next day, Sung-han began to try to find a breakthrough to help Ji-young escape from suffering. Meanwhile, Young-ju secretly planned, and she was forced to find Yoo-seok, the person she hated. Previously, it was thanks to colluding with Yoo-seok that Young-ju had Ju-hwa's medical records. From then on, she gradually took over everything from Ju-hwa. Currently, Young-ju is afraid that the truth will be exposed, but still refuses to give in. She tries to force Yoo-seok to be silent, but he no longer listens to Young-ju. Yoo-seok realizes that what they did was a crime and it was not just a personal calculation. Young-ju asks Yoo-seok directly what he wants in exchange for his silence. Yoo-seok sets the condition of opening a cafe in a prime location as a severance fee. Director Chang Jin's chain of stores was thriving, so this was completely feasible. After thinking for a night, Sung-han decided to take all the documents to meet Gi-young's grandmother. Sung-han flatly refused to help her sue for custody of Gi-young. No matter who Gum-hee's opponent was, the final result would not change. She would win. It was just a matter of how much property would be divided. Faced with that argument, Gi-young's grandmother had no choice but to accept the truth and take the blame for her daughter-in-law. In anger, she returned and asked Young-ju to give custody of Ji-young to Sung-han. Young-ju objected, saying that Ji-young was entering puberty and needed to live with her parents. Jung-hee could not say anything more because she still had the pain of being in Hawaii. That morning, after the call with Ju-hwa, she received the news that Ju-hwa had passed away. Jung-hee could not remember all the details. She just felt herself gradually losing control. The obsession made Gum-hee suspect that her son was involved in Ju-hwa's car accident. She thought that it was not just an accident, but that Young-ju had deliberately arranged it to eliminate her daughter-in-law. However, Young-ju insisted that she did not know the driver who caused the accident. The last call between Young-ju and Ju-hwa was also heard by Gum-hee clearly. Although Young-ju's expression changed, she still tried to stay calm. She thought that it was not important, but everything would come to light, and when the truth was revealed, no one could avoid it. That day, the driver who had been fired came to Sung-han to talk about Ji-young. He said that since Gi-young was in 3rd grade, the boy had started to show strange behavior. Although the driver warned Young-ju many times, the child's condition did not improve. Gi-young gradually became unusually withdrawn, and he became more and more distant from his relatives. Hearing those words, Sung-han was extremely heartbroken. Sung-han blamed himself. His close friends knew about the matter and divided into 2 groups to support Sung-han with all their might. One group secretly followed Ji-young and Young-ju's daily activities closely. The other group collected relevant documents to help him prepare legal documents. When everything was going well, the police suddenly called with bad news. Sung-han's friend was suspected because he followed them too openly, and Buff was temporarily detained at police station. Then they met Young-ju again, making the situation even more tense. During their private conversation, Sung-han realized realized something even more bitter. He was falsely accused of instigating Ji Young's grandmother, turning her from a person who was not greedy for money into someone who fought over a large fortune. Now, because of Ji Young, he continued to put pressure on her, making everything complicated. Sun Han kept appearing around the child, making outsiders suspect his true intentions. The truth was that Ji Young's grandmother had never been greedy and had donated all her assets to charity. Only then did Sun Han understand why she was fighting for custody of her grandchild. It wasn't for money, but for love, and to atone for the mistakes her son had made against Ji Young's mother. The next day, Sun Han went to see Ji Young's grandmother to clarify a few things. He discovered that she needed a large sum of money, but not for herself. It turned out that Gum Hee intended to use all of that money to help and protect Ji Young's life. Perhaps that day, she had accidentally heard Youngju talking to Ju Hua. In fact, Gum Hee's son must be more important than her grandson. Sun Han wondered what made Gum Hee work so hard to protect Ji Young and take the money that she once considered trash. The truth made him speechless, because Ji Young was Ju Hua's son. Gum Hee considered Ju Hua as her own daughter, not just her son's wife. As a woman born into a wealthy family, she understood the meaning of tolerance that made Gum Hee always generous, and she was willing to give in to maintain family harmony. But when Ji Young's mother entered that life, Gum Hee felt the difference. The house that used to make her tired suddenly became a warm place thanks to the presence of Ju Hua. Ju Hua gave Gum Hee a feeling of closeness, like mother and daughter, even though they were not blood-related. She knew everything in the past but never chose to expose the truth. Instead, Gum Hee silently endured. She chose to accompany Ju Hua through all difficulties. Gum Hee considered Ju Hua as a loved one, but she could not interfere in her son's marriage. That's what makes Gum Hee always feel guilty and protect Gi Young with all her heart as a way to make up for it. Sun Han knew the whole truth, so the next day he went to meet Gi Young's nephew in person. He took all the money in his wallet and considered it an official trust fee from his client. From that moment on, Sun Han became Gi Young's legal representative. He was determined to take the child away from that suffocating castle called the family. The final meaningful and heavy divorce had now come to an end. Sun Han was not only a divorce lawyer, but also a person who sought justice for his deceased sister. For a long time, he believed that Ji Young was living well in the house of his chaebol father. Unexpectedly, the child was living in loneliness, hurt, and depression. In order to regain custody of Ji Young, Sun Han agreed to confront a force 6 times stronger. Even though he knew the difficulties, he still stood firm. He was not shaken or afraid. However, with the courage of a lawyer, Sun Han still kept others safe. He helps Gum Hee maintain her marriage to avoid further loss. Sun Han does not want to sacrifice anyone else in the family for Gi Young. The seemingly chaotic divorce drama finally ends in temporary peace. Although there are many challenges ahead, Sun Han is ready to enter a new battle. That day at a restaurant, Chang Jin and Gum Hee still maintain the name of marriage as an agreement. The two decide to continue living together but not interfere in each other's lives. However, Chang Jin is too confident. He suddenly mentions that Gi Young cannot live with Sun Han. Gi Young's grandfather thinks that Sun Han approached the child to get the shares he intends to leave to his grandson. Chang Jin asserts that no one can overcome the overwhelming attraction of money and property. Gum Hee once said that after dividing the assets, she would leave some money to Gi Young. But Sun Han wanted Gum Hee not to leave money to her grandson. He wanted to avoid unnecessary pain. When her husband hinted that Sun Han was greedy for assets, Gum Hee was heartbroken. She reminded him that Sun Han wanted her not to leave assets to her grandson. When his wife criticized him, Chang Jin's face immediately changed. Even though he knew he was wrong, he still tried to act noble and provoked his wife. Chang Jin hinted that the reason she wanted a divorce was only about money. Those words made Gum Hee angry. Without hesitation, she was determined to complete the divorce proceedings. Soon, the day of the trial for custody of Gi Young between the two sides officially took place. Sun Han brought a series of solid pieces of evidence to fight against Youngju's influence. The first witness was the driver from the past who had witnessed Ji Young growing up since childhood. He honestly reported the psychological changes to G's unusual eating habits. In particular, the driver pointed out the indifference and lack of care from Gi Young's biological father and stepmother. However, Youngju was not far behind. She prepared witnesses to refute. The maid denied that Gi Young had ever shown signs of overeating, as the driver had stated. However, the surveillance video was immediately shown, exposing the maid's lies. The new driver, because he was bribed with money, also falsely stated that the boy was looking for Sun Han and did not run away on his own. Immediately, the video recording the truth that day completely refuted that statement. At this time, the last witness appeared, lawyer Yu So, who had caused the tragedy. After receiving the coffee shop from Youngju, he denied all actions. Although all his words were contradictory and unreasonable, he still deliberately refused to admit the truth. If it can be proven that Yu Sok was bribed that year, causing his sister Sun Sung Han to lose the divorce lawsuit and Juhwa to lose custody of her child, then the current lawsuit will have a real chance to turn things around. But at this time, there is still no concrete evidence, causing the lawsuit to fall into a stalemate. After the first tense confrontation in court, Jong-sik feels remorseful. He was the one who introduced Yoo-suk to be the lawyer for Juhwa's divorce case. Jong-sik feels guilty, so he proactively goes to find the man who caused everything to fall apart. Jong-sik confronts Yoo-suk. He demands that Yoo-suk surrender and take legal responsibility. The evidence is clear that Yoo-suk once disclosed Juhwa's psychological treatment records to the other side. That behavior seriously violates professional ethics in the law for lawyers. Jong-sik prepared a fine and placed it in front of Yoo-suk as a form of repentance. However, that small amount of money did not move Yoo-suk even a little bit. With Young-ju's support for a long time, he had become greedy and cold to the point of cruelty. Even when Jong-sik humbled himself to beg, Yoo-suk remained indifferent. After the plan failed, Jong-sik told Sung Han everything. He admitted that Yoo-suk was a good friend, but he accidentally pushed Yoo-suk into tragedy. Sung Han did not blame Jong-sik, but he felt the power behind him. At this point, everyone was just waiting for the last hope to turn the case around. Before the second trial, Sung Han took the initiative to meet Ji-young's father. He wanted this father to face the truth and his sacred role in the family. If he was a true father, no one could easily give up custody of their child. Sung Han brought up the fateful call between Young-ju and Juhwa that took place in Hawaii years ago. Suppose the content of that call was so heartbreaking that it caused Juhwa to lose her temper and cause an accident. Could Jong-guk continue to be indifferent like he had been for many years? Remembering the intense arguments between his wife and mother, Jong-guk's heart also wavered. On the day of the trial, Sung Han chose an emotional strategy. He appealed to Jong-guk's remaining fatherly love. No one expected that Jong-guk would proactively offer to be a witness during the trial. Before that, he had gone to his mother to ask what had happened to Juhwa before she died. Gwem-hee did not want to say anything. She was worried that her son would divorce Young-ju because of this, but he still earnestly begged her. Finally, Jong-guk heard from his mother's own mouth the horrifying content of that phone call. After knowing the truth, Jong-guk mentally prepared himself to testify in court. Jong-guk admitted that Yoo-suk had provided him with Juhwa's medical records. That information was supposed to be top secret but was used to bring it to the divorce court. That testimony helped Sung Han turn the tables and win this lawsuit. From now on, Gi-young is officially given custody to Sung Han. The child's life will gradually become stable and happy. There will be no more suffocating confinement. The one who caused the suffering, Young-ju, will also have to pay the price. She lost both her husband and the right to manage the corporation. Although Yoo-suk kept his mouth shut until the end, he no longer had any value to Young-ju. The coffee shop that was once given as a favor is no longer mentioned by anyone. Sung Han, once a brilliant figure in the legal world, eventually returned to the piano and his passion for music. The drama ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.